Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this.
Just order. I'm seeing everyone look at me. I've given 8 this side, 7 this side, without a single member from this side since we started this debate. Not one.
And I was the earliest this side.
So just relax. Just relax. It's
okay.
to ensure that we are a house that has minority and majority. So it's my duty to ensure that both sides speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When you look at orphans well, you get blessed. Now, I rise to support this motion, and I really must appreciate and congratulate Honorable Ruto. There are times that we put aside politics and look at the welfare of the nation, and this is one such time. Mr. Speaker, if you look at what Honorable Ruto is asking us, that we need to set a policy, guidelines, and implementation framework for a project where pupils are already in class. How far can you be with putting a cart before a horse? It is even shameful that we are talking about that and the children are already in class. If you are still talking of policy, guidelines, implementation framework, do we even have an implementation timeline? How these kids will move? Honorable members here were saying, proposing how kids should move and where classes are. These are things that should have been in the books before we started. Because this is planning. This is making things work. This is not impressing people. There's a difference. If you are looking for votes, yes, well, it would work. But if we want to educate our children, we must go the way Honorable Ruto is proposing, and it should have happened earlier. What do we have an infrastructure needs? Do we know? We had classrooms built in secondary schools. The kids are now in primary schools. I know there's transition, but even that I'll raise issues about. What about the human resource? We are saying here that some old people, were picked, some old teachers. It does not matter. They were trained. But do we know their needs? What about the financial needs? How were schools picked to house JSS? In my constituency, a large number, nearly half, actually do not have JSS. And if you picked this, how were the number of pupils identified for planning financial needs? When I asked, I was told they looked at the number of kids in standard 6, or who are now moving to 7 to start junior secondary. But now when you have amalgamated them, this is not the same number of kids because you have put kids from other places. How was that one? How? I really ask my colleagues, how can that happen? You mean nobody sat down to do simple arithmetic? Because that should have been done. And even then, the money is not coming regularly. We can understand that. Mr. Speaker, we can talk that there was a transition, that there was another government and the government and change. In fact, if there is a transition, Mr. Speaker, the duty is on the incoming person to make sure that you take up in a way. The country will not listen to you blaming those who have gone. They have gone. If you find there are errors, your duty is now to correct those errors. So this transition should have been extremely meticulous. We were planning to take kids in secondary schools. We decided in one day we are going to primary. At that point, meticulous planning was needed. It is clear to everybody now that that was not done. And this is just one example, actually, in the whole ministry, where policies are not properly formulated. We have had very major changes in this ministry. We have the competency based with the JSS. We have 100% transition. How do we now link and coordinate 100% transition with JS? What is the transition point now? What is the transition point now? Before we knew, it was standard 8 to Form 1. Now, we have junior secondary. So where is the transition point? Where is the 100%? We have just come from the issue of delocalization and relocalization. How do you harmonize that with JSS? How do you harmonize that with the 100% transition? The main purpose of competence-based is that the kids should have practical skills. In the infrastructure planning, school classrooms, we seem to be okay, we can be okay, because CDF had put out a lot of classrooms in my constituencies. All the JSS classrooms are in classrooms that we built in primary schools for those schools. Now they are being used in a way, in a very good way, they are being used to house JSSS. So again, his Honorable Buruku's idea that how we use CDF is welcome. But if it is competence-based, there are two issues in infrastructure that I don't hear about. Are we going to have laboratories or are we going to have workshops? When those chicken that the honorable member was talking about, are they going to be slaughtered in a workshop or are they going to, the ones that are slaughtered, the ones that will be eaten, I know where they'll be slaughtered. That's not a problem. But the ones that are for teaching,